Hello and welcome to the Dogtooth Podcast. I just want to do a quick introduction on what the Dogtooth Podcast is, and then I'll get on introducing our guests. So the Dogtooth Podcast is basically me chatting with my network, my friends, business colleagues, and interesting people. So not everyone on here I know very well, but some people will be just my friends. I'm hoping to tease out some interesting things, but essentially what this will be a creative business podcast. Not for creative specifically. It will be various different types of people, from fitness through to manufacturing, with artists in there as well. But it will be generally a business-focused podcast, so it's not going to be necessarily about mindset or fitness or manufacturing. It'll be about all the thread that holds it together, and over time I'm hoping that I will be able to create a sort of a document that will help small business operators, people who are looking to come out of a corporate gig and turn them their passion into a business. That is my passion. I'm fortunate that when I was very young I kind of chose a career based on a few things, but we can get into over the time with these podcasts. But ultimately, I chose to be a designer. I followed that path, and eventually I am now, I've been running my own business for 20 plus years. And I love my daily life. Do I want to improve? Do I want to make a bigger impact in life? Of course I do. And that's part of this podcast journey as well. So if you'd like to join me on the Dogtooth Podcast, good morning and welcome to the Dogtooth Podcast. It's Monday morning, it's 10 o'clock, and with me today I've got Marianne Page, who is a professional speaker and best-selling author. Mari and I have worked together in the past, and I thought it would be great just to catch up with her and see where she is with her business and what the future holds, and maybe she could give us some input as well as we do this. So first of all, I want to say best-selling author also means that she has written 4 books, and she's also co-wrote one of the pages or one of the chapters in my own book. So we worked on the systems and operations side of it together. And so, Marianne, first of all, obviously, I've given you an introduction of who you are, but what is it that you would say you represent, as in who do you come across as for everybody else?
Who do I come across as? Oh, wow, that is a big, wide question. I come across as a very jolly, cheery person who makes systems more straightforward. I just can't bear the whole nonsense and the whole language and the whole complex stuff around systems. I just want it to be really straightforward for people to be more structured, more organized. So that's who I am. Obviously, I've done consulting and a lot of coaching in the past. But I'm stepping firmly into the arena of professional speaking, because to be honest, I just want to make a bigger difference. I want the message to get out there, that it doesn't have to be such hard work, and you can be free from the day-to-day of your business without it killing you.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, I've had first-hand experience of working with you, as you were my coach for a while, and so I definitely feel that you turn up as a jolly, happy person, and a person who values its systems and operations, because I think I already came to you with that sort of mindset about systems and ops already. But I didn't even know I was into that sort of side of it. But from a creative point of view, I feel like systems and ops takes away a lot of the repetitive in some sense, and gives you the freedom to be creative, as opposed to, I think a lot of creative people think that systems and ops is a bit boring, but actually it's like an unlock for me. Tell me some more about. Go on. Sorry.
Well, actually, let me just jump in there while I think of something, because the guy who won the Winter Olympics are on as this is being recorded, and the guy who won the second, well, he won 2 gold medals, didn't he? Over 2 days, can't remember his blooming name, won the skeleton. And he talked about you've got to do the boring stuff that makes the rest of it amazing and easy and just straightforward. And I just thought, oh my God, that's exactly what we talk about. It's about yeah, you've got to invest time and effort and money to put all of these foundations in place. But once you've got them in place, it's just, yeah, it's just really straightforward. And I just thought, what a great way to put us next to a gold medal
Yeah.
skeleton guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched it yesterday myself, actually. And yeah, I mean, to come back from that, the deficit of the female, I forget what her name is. But yeah, it was a bit intense. I was watching it. My wife's very much into all the Olympic stuff. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was
Oh
just
my
there
God, the
for that
speed
one.
we've
So
got as well. Flipping
yeah,
hell, the speed. Anyway,
yeah.
yes,
Anyway,
little
yeah,
rabbit hole there.
yep. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is how did we get here? Because your experience comes from working in a corporate environment, but
Yeah,
one that's very systemized. So if you could sort of give me the potted history of your career up to this point.
yeah, yeah. Well, I joined McDonald's until I could find a proper job. That was how I actually viewed it when I joined them many moons ago. Um, and then I just got sucked into the culture and the way of life, and I joined and I was made a restaurant manager within 12 months, and honest to God, I was the most naive 21-year-old you'd ever be likely to meet. I'd had a really lovely sheltered upbringing. This was my first job. I mean, it's shocking, really, 21. Anyway, um, but within 12 months, it made me a restaurant manager. And, I would love to say it was because I was just naturally talented, but it wasn't. It was all down to the systems. And I went on to have 4 different roles, none of which I'd obviously known anything about before I joined McDonald's. But there was just a system to follow. Actually, one of the roles, they asked me to set up the customer services department because, believe it or not, they didn't have one back then. And oh my lord, I was like a pig in doodah, just developing all the systems, bringing in the team, the people that I wanted that were perfect for being on the end of a phone to somebody who my fries were missing when I went through the drive-through. Um, but it was just great. I absolutely loved it. And it's that, McDonald's teach you to replace yourself, to bring somebody up behind you who can, take over from you, be better than you, and so that you can move on and get a promotion maybe, or take on more responsibility, or take on bigger responsibility. And I had a brilliant career. I loved my time at McDonald's, really did. It was a great business to work for. I get that they're Marmite. I get that there'll be people going, oh, bloody McDonald's, but you've got to get past. You've got to get past the food. You've got to get past all the old crises that they went through back in the day, and just think about that ability to skip, that ability to take a ridiculously naive 21-year-old and turn her into the manager of £1 million restaurant with a team of 50 and 2 18-year-old floor managers to support her. That you've got to get past that, because it's just the way they are set up to operate. There is a lesson in that for every single business, and regardless of, even if you're a one-man band, you've still got to work with other people to help you achieve what you want to achieve. So yeah, just amazing. I absolutely loved it.
So then it's how long were you at McDonald's for?
27 years.
Right. Wow.
Long time. Yeah, 27 years. Yeah. Saw the world with McDonald's, met David Beckham several times, Alex Ferguson, Margaret Thatcher. She came and opened the restaurant at the first new head office. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And interesting. Yeah, 27 years. And honestly, when I left, it felt like I'd been kicked out of home for the
Right.
second time.
Yeah.
Um, it's funny, if I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, that they'd been in the police force and left, and they said that their sort of horizons were so limited by the police force. Everything was very regimented, which a lot of people say McDonald's is regimented. I don't like to use those words, but but actually there are a lot of similarities. And I came out of McDonald's thinking, oh my God, who am I? You know, I've been this McDonald's person for 27 years. Who am I? What am I going to do? And the horizons, you know, I'd thought the sun rose and set under the golden arches, and here I am out in the big wide world. And it was just amazing. It was just fantastic to see all of these myriad of different sorts of businesses. You know, businesses that, I mean, God, people make businesses out of all sorts of things. It's incredible. But yeah, brilliant people doing brilliant things. And it was just fantastic. And a lot of people have said to me, oh, why didn't you niche? Why didn't you, you know, for some reason, a number of people wanted me to niche down to accountants. And I thought, well, because this stuff is applicable to any business in any industry. And why would I want to limit myself to one niche when I can just work with people like Rick Jesse at Dogtooth? You know, it's like so far from an accountant you wouldn't believe. Yeah, it was that my eyes were just opened, like, oh my God, look at the world, it's huge.
I think that the systems thing is a logic process, and I think that's probably why people thought, oh, accountants, that's logical, that's a process driven, which it is. But I think every business, as you say, every kind of business needs what you offer, that the way of looking at it. And one of your key phrases is like the way we do things around here, as opposed to this is a systems and operations, our manual. But for me, doing some of the material that you created and helped me, this was obviously when, you know, there was more than just me here in the studio. You know, when there was like, well, first of all, there were 6 of us in the studio, or 5 of us in the studio, and there was, you know, like a whole team of like subcontractors as well that we had that worked for us, and just sort of codifying all those processes, which I developed from scratch over 15, 20 years. Well, it's 20 years now, so let's go back. It was about 15 years. So all these processes, and then just like turning them into documentation was really kind of liberating, and it really did help me to move the sort of the business forward. Even now, I like think of my little, the wiki that we did. But like one of the key things I think that came out of it was this like decision tree, right? So it's like a project comes in, if you know, you get a price, then you get a date, and then it goes this way and then down this way, and then we've got like these outcomes, and then if it doesn't do this, it goes back to the top, you know, like if we can't fit it. I loved the processes because they just freed me up to do really art. That's how my art came out of this. It's because I didn't have to be, I was in the studio, but I didn't have to be in the day-to-day, which then ultimately it came to that point where
sorry, I'm interrupting you, just because I'm listening to the way you're talking and thinking, oh my God, my thinking has moved on so much from those days, because these days I really even shy away from the word process. Because it's sort of, it's one of those words that it shrinks a little bit of my soul every time I say it, for a start. It's just something about it that it's dull, boring. It's a blocking word for teams. So, you know, you'll like, I'm sure your team, where you say, oh, I've documented all my processes, they're all like going, oh, amazing, Rick, that's so good. No, I bet all of them are going, oh God, processes. Why can't we just get on and do the job? And it is getting away from that language of processes and systems and standard operating procedures, and oh my God, there's just so much bureaucratic language that bogs down what it's really all about. And I do think back to my time at McDonald's and think, well, we never talked about processes and systems ever. You know, we had observation checklists, which were effectively a how-to guide for doing the job. All we talked about was the McDonald's way. This is the McDonald's way to cook French fries. This is the McDonald's way to onboard a franchisee. This is the McDonald's way to do a checkup on a supplier. And it was just the McDonald's way. And everybody was taught the McDonald's way to do everything. And then, they were trained. The observation checklist was a how-to guide, but also a check to make sure that everybody was following the McDonald's way. And it's these days what I would, and also, yes, back when we spoke, I was still very heavily into, oh yes, everything's got to be documented, and yes, mostly the business owner is going to do that. And honest to God, I'm so far from that now, because if you want your way to stick, it's got to be our way as a business and as a team. And the way to develop our way is to work with the team who actually do the tasks and go, what is the best way to do this? What is the most simple, logical, repeatable way to do this task? Right, let's capture it, but not as a document that nobody will ever look at again, that's stuck in Dropbox somewhere, but as a how-to guide that actually, there are apps these days. I mean, I talk about Trainual a lot because I love it. But there are apps these days that you can have your how-to guides on there as videos. Yeah. So, if you really get stuck, you can you watch the video on your own phone, on a business phone or an app, or you know what I mean. And it makes it so much more accessible to the whole team. So the whole team helped create our way. Because of that, they own it and they protect it. And it's not the business owner going away on a program with a systems person and coming back going, I've got it, I've cracked it, I've documented all of our processes, here we are. It's them, it's a whole getting together thing, which is why, saying at the beginning about the gold medal winner, yes, it's an investment of time to sit down with your team and do all of that. But the outcome from it is a team who absolutely get it, who buy into it. I mean, me as a naive 21-year-old restaurant manager, if the team hadn't all been trained in the McDonald's way, I was never going to be able to run around 50 of them, checking that they were dressing a Big Mac right, or sweeping the floor right, or they just all they could work on their own, to be honest, without any managers around them, and they would just come in and do their job because they knew what the job was. So it's fascinating when people get into this. Just develop our way of doing things. It's honest God, it's life changing. It really is.
Yeah, well, just on that, I will say that obviously I was pointing out some of the key things that worked for us, but I think what I actually found in practice, so I get all the knowledge from you, and then sort of modify it into the Dogtooth way. And so I tried various ways of doing things, but ultimately, it's like square peg round hole. Especially with creative people, it's like I'm resistance, But what I found was that at the beginning I was like, this is the way we do things now, and then when certain people went over those lines, I was like, sort of like chewing my lip.
Control freak.
Yeah. But then where I came to was the goal is the end point is the key thing, and so it was if we had to put an end point on our thing, it was deliver the best possible outcome, and honestly, without wanting to sound like we were gold standard, we didn't make many mistakes. We would turn up, we would work with clients who, and if there was ever a mistake on our part, it was very, very low. We were in the 10, less than 5% of their issues, because we'd already done the thinking before we turn up to the job. Obviously, repetition is good for that, but codifying it into a way of doing things, and I couldn't always get Jamie to do the things that I wanted in my way, just as for instance, a box of tools, right? Because I've been to every job when it was me doing it all, I knew that we missed on this. I didn't have this tool, so I had to fudge it. So let's buy that tool, put it in the box. So I ended up with this huge toolbox of everything for every eventuality, and we could solve any problem on site, whatever. And toolbox, just in case anyone's listening, is not just drills. It was like all, like glues and, like a syringe. There's like everything in there. But Jamie liked to go light, so he would have like a small backpack. But ultimately, if the job gets done and delivered, that is up to, that the way that we do things differently, the outcome was the same. And that was what I'd learned through doing, essentially, after learning all the stuff you said, is that, eventually you just got to kind of let those edges just blur a little bit and let people do the things, as long as we get to the same outcome, which is, the job is done, and we've over-delivered, then, and people want us back because we're so good, not like never call us again. That's all I cared about eventually.
Yeah. And that is great, and that works in a small, tight team. The challenge with that comes when you want to scale, because you can't scale what you've just described. Scale comes from people doing things in exactly the same way, so that so that if one leaves, like when I left the business, it didn't fall apart. My tracks had been covered as I left the car park, because that's just the way it works. Everybody is replaceable, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, because it does mean greater opportunity, etc. And in a scaling business, you want a blueprint that you can just sort of pick up and move to a different part of town, or a different town, or a different county, or a different country, or whatever. That's what you want, because that makes it really easy to go from, crikey, in the 80s, which you don't remember, and
I do, but probably not in the same cultural way.
Probably most people on this podcast won't remember, but anyway, I do. And McDonald's were opening a restaurant every 7 days, and it's somewhere in the UK. And in order to be able to do that, they had to be able to train teams and managers and know exactly how they were going to set up the kitchen, all of the equipment being the same, etc., etc. So for scale, if anybody listening is going to scale their business, you want things to be the same. You want things to be our way of doing things, so that you can replicate it over and over and over and over and over again, and things not fall apart and it not need you. That's just, and also the other really good thing I believe comes from this developing our way of doing things is that culture. And therefore, when you want to promote somebody into a more management role, yes, you've still got to develop them. There are so many managers who get no development out there, but you've got to develop them as a manager. But they really get your culture. One of the little sidestep here, one of the hardest roles I think to hire is operations manager. I just think it's a really, really difficult role, because a business will spend a lot of money to bring in an operations manager, because they think, right, I'll bring somebody in who already knows how to manage a big group of people. That first bit is usually fine. What they don't have is any idea of the culture. They don't understand our way. So they come in, and quite often that's the bit that falls over, them not understanding the culture. Whereas if you grow your own and have this, and as I say, McDonald's were brilliant at this, developing people up to all levels of the business. I mean, I know several 16-year-olds who started as spotty teenagers on the shop floor who ended up as vice presidents, because it's that investment in people, investment in development within the culture. Yes, they still brought in people from outside, but usually for, senior marketing roles, or, things where they needed a new idea. But it's, and you sort of described me as this as in the intro. People talk about me as a systems person, but I'm really not. I'm a people person, because this is all about people. It's just about making people's lives easier. and making your life easier as a business owner, making your team's life easier because they know what good looks like and they know exactly how you want them to do the job, and making your customers' life easier because they get a consistent experience that they can rely on. So it's really all about people. Systems are just the way it gets done. It's just the habits and routines that make all of that easier, make it possible.
Yeah. So, I'm curious about McDonald's as a business in terms of like. But my question is, because that's all I know, is was there like a level of people that were outside of the restaurants that were then sort of like looking for the key people to take to the next level, or was it just based on numbers? Like you did really well, so therefore you got another layer.
Yeah, really good question. I love that, because the answer is both. Yes, there were, there was Hamburg University. One of my roles at one point was senior professor in Hamburg University,
Cool.
where all of the managers and the franchisees came to be trained, but not trained in the day-to-day, but trained in how to manage people. All of that. The bigger sort of personal development stuff, really. Although there was an equipment course that I hated teaching because I was absolutely rubbish at equipment. But anyway, follow the story. But most of the development went on in the departments or in the restaurants, or it was a restaurant manager would be trained how to develop their managers with the help of Hamburg University as it was then. They would go on courses, they would be tested, etc., etc. But within the restaurant, a big part of personal development is feedback. I mean, you've heard me talking about sticky systems. You've got to hire the right people, you've got to train them in our way of doing things, but then you've got to have a feedback system. And the feedback system is, and certainly in McDonald's, was all about developing people. It was all about looking at who's doing really well, pushing them to do better. That's how I ended up, moving from restaurant management into Hamburg University, into setting up the customer services department, into running 4 departments of my own. It was all about those feedback sessions from your immediate manager, who would develop you and who would then recommend you for a bigger role, a different role. And obviously you could apply within the business as well. But it's the manager's development program started at level 1 and went up to, I think there was a level 4 manager's development that you just progressed through. It was part of progressing as an individual, is that you went through these stages of manager development. And it was one of the things when I was working, consulting and coaching with businesses, which I still do. But anyway, one of the things that I really noticed was the number of managers who had been taken out of a role they loved, shoved into a manager's role, and go, here, manage these people. You're really good at what you do. Manage this team now. Oh, right. Yep. Okay. So the people I've just been alongside, I've now got to manage. Great. Thank you. What development am I going to get? I'll send you on a 1-day course.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And it really upset me to see some of these people who then became either power happy, or they thought that they had to stop people from talking at all, because they'd be working. And that's why I basically, I didn't copy McDonald's, but I basically developed our managers development program, because I just wanted to give these guys some sort of help, and to do it over 6 months so that they could grow in confidence. Because managing, you know what managing people is all about: having strategies and confidence. And if you've got neither, then you could still be a good manager, but it's not likely, is it? So yeah, going back to McDonald's. It was, everything within McDonald's was structured to push people out of their comfort zone and see how far you could push them, how far they could develop, how how great their potential was. And they were, yes, very good at spotting potential and going, right. In fact, there was a guy who came in who was a really, at the time, really good guy, just came in as a junior accountant, and somebody spotted something in him. They put him through a fast track program. They got him out into operations. Within a very short space of time, he became regional manager. Then he took over the whole UK business and ended up as the global chief exec. Wow. From coming in as an accountant. He is a great example of absolute power corrupts absolutely, but that again is a whole other story that we won't go down that route. But that's, you know, that's the sort of thing that they did regularly. They were very good at spotting potential.
Yeah.
Everybody was able to do it.
One of the things there I kind of was started to think about was sort of going back to maybe the bit that I said before, where I was like, I could blur the lines slightly, and you said, well, you know, from a scale perspective, you need to do the exact same thing. And I think, you know, like if in my analogy, a lot of the processes were on the job, you know, like the way that we do things were sort of fairly, locked in, let's say, but but it was around the edges where certain things maybe didn't go to what I felt was the right way of doing things. But one of the questions that I had for this was just about discipline and how, you know, if there's business people out here listening to this, it's like, what in terms of McDonald's is like the percentage in terms of feedback. If it's 100% feedback from the manager's side of it, it's like, where is discipline in that? Is it a smaller element? Is it a larger element? Is it 50-50? It give you good feedback and negative feedback, needs change.
What you mean? It's neither. There's no percentage involved. It's, if you're doing the job right, then the feedback's great, and if you're not doing it right, then the feedback is you need to be doing it right, or we're going to have a different conversation in a while. But it's with a really effective feedback system, it's twofold, because you've got the day-to-day feedback in the moment. I've seen something that's not right, I need to correct it, or I've heard something that's not right, I need to correct it, or I've read something. And unfortunately, what an awful lot of managers and business owners do is they see something that's not right, they get really pissed off about it, they walk past it, they take it home, they tell their other half about, you know, Rick, oh my God, if I see him doing that once more, have you spoken to Rick? Oh no, but crikey, you know, I gave him the look. I had to actually have somebody say to me, oh, he knew I gave him the look. Oh right, okay, that's great feedback. But it's that not walking past anybody and anything that is not right. And loads of people have said to me, oh my God, but I don't want to be just that nag who's constantly correcting. You've got to be the nag. Be the nag until they're doing it right. And if they don't get it, then they're not right for your business. And the first part is in the moment. The second part is sitting everybody down at least once a quarter and giving them their time in the sun, where you talk through how they're doing, what they're doing really well, what they could improve on, even if they're doing really well, what they should challenge themselves to do more of or better, and then if they're not doing it right, to hold them to account for not doing it right, and say that, you know, we normally have quarterly performance reviews, but actually we're gonna have monthly reviews until we sort this problem out, because you're not doing this right. And if in 3 months' time we're still having the same conversations, then we're going to be talking about parting company, because, you know, we just don't settle in our business. We've got to keep improving and moving forward. Oh my God, in McDonald's, you were constantly, when I think back to it now, you were constantly under pressure to improve and to make sure that you did well next, because pay was linked to performance, bonuses were linked to performance. It was very much a meritocracy in that regard. But I think I just think feedback feedback turns into performance management, and performance management is entirely associated with negativity. It's entirely associated with telling somebody off, taking them to the well, we used to be taken to the stock room, taken to some dark room in your office or your building, and giving people a good shouting at, because they've not been doing things right. When you can make feedback part of your culture and actually also make it two ways, so you sit down with a team member and say, what can I do to help you do this better? What can I do to help you improve, to fulfill your potential, whatever? Then if feedback is part of your culture, then it's not, there's no negativity about it. It's all about behavior. Even somebody who's sort of slouching in late and everybody's waiting for them to arrive to find out what sort of day they're going to have, because are they going to come in a filthy mood? This is usually the business owner, to be honest. Are they going to come in a filthy mood and we're all going to have an awful day, or are they going to come in jolly because I don't know, their team won at the weekend and we're going to have a great day? Being able to say to those people, when you come in and you are not on form, are you aware of the impact that you have on the rest of the team, on me, on our customers, and making it all about behavior rather than, oh my God, you're a moody git. Do you know how much it's just about being professional, talking about behavior, and then there is no confrontation, because you've just given very behavior related feedback. You've not got into personality at all. Do we get annoyed with our driving instructors when they give us feedback? It's like, we get feedback all the time from a driving instructor because we know that they want us to pass. When your feedback culture is, I'm giving you this feedback, one, because of the impact what you're doing is having, but also because I want you to improve, because we want everybody to improve. That's who we are. Then it becomes so much easier for everybody.
Yeah, I think also going back to the culture part of it, I think if you hire for culture, like there's a big talk about that in business. It's like hire for culture and skills come afterwards. And I guess obviously McDonald's point of view, that's exactly the case, because the skills are developed through the system. But what I notice is that even in the time that I've been employing people, I don't know, I think I maybe employed 12 different people over 15 years. Some stuck around, some didn't, some were temporary because we were busy, that kind of thing. But over the time, I think the people that I kept were the people who got the way that I wanted to do things. Yeah. And I actually didn't like pulling people up. Like, there's obviously like a lot of business owners is, I just want to keep the peace, I don't want to be one of those like Mardy bosses, because I've worked for them, and they're, you end up disliking them because of the way that they operate. I remember, I won't mention their name, but I don't think they'll ever listen to this, but like I also remember my creative director saying to me, probably just stay away from him for the next couple of months, because it's accountancy time, and it gets really mardy, And it was like for like 2 months, we were all like, while he was doing the books and stuff, like we were all like walking around on our tiptoes. But I didn't want to be like that. I wanted to be a very sort of like inclusive part of the team, and that I'm hoping that's how my team thought of it, is that I was, never distant from them, never in an ivory office, even though I did have an office. Yeah. But I think it's hire the right people that fit with you, and therefore all of that process actually, you find people that want to achieve a level, I guess obviously, the difference is in terms of like a small business to a larger business is a larger business doesn't necessarily have the choice as much as like a smaller business. In that, they've got a lot more roles to fill. Yeah, I would say they've got a lot more roles to fill, so they basically take anybody.
And that's definitely where it falls over, because that's when you start settling, and you start thinking, John is, oh God, he's paying, but on a good day, but on a good day, and you start making excuses, and you start making excuses for who you have, and you start settling for less than you want. And then what happens then is the rest of the team are looking at John and going, great, yeah. So on a good day is great, but what about the other days when we've got to make up for what he's done? We've got to carry him. We've got to cover for his mistakes, and they are looking to you to sort John out. They are desperate. And then if you don't, and if you are easy Aussie, yeah, I don't want to be that horrible boss that's constantly nagging. Then they start going, well, why am I bothering? Why am I pushing myself out to do the best possible job when actually anything goes, because they just settle. I worked for 10 bloody long months with the blood service, and there were no consequences. Whether you did a good job, a bad job, whether you turned up, whether you didn't turn up, you'd still get your 0.5% pay rise at the end of the year, and maybe sometimes, but there were no consequences, and it was absolutely awful, because coming from McDonald's into the blood service, I was used to consequences. I was used to being able to give consequences to people, and here I couldn't. My hands were completely tied, and I was working with people who just didn't care. It was horrible, actually. But anyway, it's everybody else is looking at them going, why would, oh God. And in fact, the culture in there became, how soon can I get out of here? When is my retirement date? I mean, some of these people had like 10 years before their retirement, but they were already counting it down. You never want a culture where the team don't work as a team, where even one I'm sure everybody listening, maybe not everybody, 90%, 95% of people listening, 99 even, will have somebody in their team, if they've got a team, who they are settling for, who is the person that is, oh yeah, Brian. In my partner's case, it's Brian. Oh, Brian, what did you do today? Oh God. It's just, there's always something. There's always something that they've done or haven't done, or pain that they've caused the rest of the team. And if you don't get them out, well, actually, if you don't get them out, you can't really scale, because everything's held back if you settle for people. So whether you're in a big business, better to run with interim people while you find the right person, than to bring in and keep somebody is wrong, that your gut, as you're sitting opposite them in an interview, you've read the CV, which is amazing, obviously, because it's all AI generated. They've created this amazing story around themselves. They've even rehearsed their interview, so they're coming across so well, but your gut is telling you they're not right for you and your team. You take them anyway. Then all you're doing is costing yourself time, money, effort, emotion, energy, all of those things, and your team as well.
Yeah, I think, like, I'm thinking about my my situation is that I don't think I've ever had any people where I've thought they're not right. But I have actually employed people that came across perfect in the the interviews and stuff, and then it's just not worked out. But I haven't done anything about it. Like, I haven't tried to create an atmosphere where they could grow, or I haven't created an atmosphere where I haven't told them they need to leave. I have probably created an atmosphere of, oh, right, okay, well, this one's not going to work, so I'll just, focus my attention elsewhere. Bide our time and see if they naturally... Yeah, I've done that too many times. I'm terrible for that, really, because I'm a zero conflict guy in many respects. I anybody who knows me from my younger days, as I am, I'm all or nothing. It's not that I'm a zero conflict guy. It's that I'm not very good when I am uncomfortable.
He's gonna blow.
So I purposefully stay a long way from that. purpose. But actually, anyway, one of the things that I also wanted to sort of touch on, which we've mentioned a couple of times, and I thought maybe there's an opportunity sort of like to talk about this, because I think a lot of business owners probably think about this, which is skill. So repetitive process, and the ability to develop culture at scale, as we were literally talking about. It's how you create a heart. I don't know any other word, but I'm trying to use something slightly more emotional than a process. A heart for developing this business or developing this thing. I would like for you to sort of like put some sort of foundation stones for what you feel is like how a small business could scale in terms of all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, well, the first thing is having the product that is scalable, and product or service that is scalable. There are a number of consulting businesses who, on the face of it, you think, oh, consulting, is that really scalable? Well, yeah, if your methodology is scalable, then you can have licensed coaches, or you can have a team that are based like your friend you just described. Products, restaurants, premises, electrical businesses are all scalable. So first of all, you have to decide what it is you want to scale. Then you've got to build the team around it. And it isn't always an employed team. It can be a franchise team. It can be a licensed team. It can be a self-employed team. But you have to have the core of our way of doing things. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. You have to have a core of how it is dealt with, operated, delivered, whatever it might be. And that has to be our way, and it has to be agreed. It has to be a blueprint of this is the way we do things. This is our way. Then it is still about, regardless of whether these people are self-employed or otherwise, it's still about having the right people who buy into that one direction of this is where we are going as a brand. This is the heart of who we are, our way. This is where we are going as a brand. This is our direction, and it's one direction, and it's clear. These are our very clear values. We only hire people to those values. Everything else is trainable. I mean, God, even rocket science is trainable. So as long as our way is built into a training system, a blueprint, a training system, then anybody that comes in can be trained to follow our way of doing things. They've got to have the same values as you. They've got to have the same heart as you. And then it is about the maintenance of consistency. And that comes from feedback, whether that is, again, to self-employed people, whether that is to freelancers, whoever it might be that's working with you, franchisees. If you're going to scale effectively and hold your brand together as you designed it, then there has to be really good training, and there has to be really good constructive and structured feedback. And when I think of McDonald's scale, obviously, in the UK, actually, they grew largely on the back of building out as corporate. So every restaurant was corporate for quite a long time. Then they, now flipped that completely on its head, and it's all franchised. But a franchisee that comes in goes through an incredibly rigorous process before they are allowed, they have 9 months of training that they pay for themselves before they're allowed anywhere near a restaurant, before they are allowed to pay a huge chunk of money to have a restaurant. And that's the level of, you can call it control, but it's protection. To me, it's protection. It's about, I built this brand. I really believe in it. I love it. I want to protect it. So I'm not going to let anybody through the door. And this really is about, this can be the same for growth as well. You just talking about bigger businesses just settling. Any place in your team needs to be viewed as precious, because because it is.
Yeah.
You've built something that you want to protect, and you want to grow with the right people who believe in it. And when you get that, you can literally scale almost anything.
Mm. Is it, in terms of like a small business growing, then are
Yeah.
they written down or not? It's like have a clear vision for where you want your business or brand to go, and
Yeah.
then you articulate that to subbies or people
Yeah.
within the team,
Yeah.
and then make sure that those people that are coming in and doing the work, they're almost giving out in an energy kind of way that same vibe to anybody
Yeah.
that they interact with. And
Yeah.
then with the systems and process, it's basically just keep doing that, put more inputs in that, from a marketing perspective, that is, like more leads
Yeah.
in, eventually scales, because, like let's say the first guys in the team get to then train the second guy layers and then the third guys. And that's kind of pretty much how most businesses would work, right? In terms
Yeah.
of like scalability.
Yeah. But also you can I've seen scale where the central hub, for example, with tradespeople. So there's a central hub that looks after all of the marketing, the leads, the interactions with the customers, and they literally just feed their franchisees. They just, here's a bunch of customers, you go and deal with them. But interesting what you said about the subbies, because I would imagine that there are people sitting on the podcast going, yeah, you can't control subbies. You can't control subbies. They're just, we had, it was just before or just after lockdown, we invested in a bit of an extension to our house, and it was, as you can imagine, it's an extension. It's quite expensive, and we had this team of guys turn up who were subcontractors of the all creamed business, and they were amazing. They turned up on time every day. They had music on, but they didn't have it blaring. They were none of them swore. They were really polite when you offered them tea or coffee. They cleaned up after themselves every single day. And I obviously commented on this. I was thinking, oh my God, you guys are good. And they said, we are on a we know exactly the business we're working for. We know exactly what their standards are and what they expect from us. And also we are on a one strike and you're out contract.
Right.
If there is one customer complaint, we will never work for them again. And I thought, wow, that's a bit extreme. I was really quite, but also it's just back to those consequences. It's like if you want to sort of maintain your brand to that level, then there have to be consequences. I've known franchisees being bought out in McDonald's because they thought they were in Burger King, where there is much less control, shall we say. And it's, it's protection. You've got to protect what makes you special and what makes you unique. So yeah, even subbies, roughy tufty builders, you can use the same techniques, strategies.
Yeah, I will say, in rounded up, I think that McDonald's is, for me, they're one of the best businesses from I understand why some people wouldn't like them, but for me, they're a great business in that they are, repeatable, and the fact that we all love is that we can go anywhere in the world and we can get pretty much the same thing. Of course, it's not Michelin star. Yeah. We know that, but we know
it is what it is.
Yeah. So I don't really like Kentucky Fried Chicken, but it's the same principle, right? If you love that, absolutely, you can go there and you can get the same thing. I don't really love Burger King either, although I just used to think that Burger King, like at some point, I thought it was better than McDonald's because you get more meat, and then over
Could I just
time,
say, interesting little fact here. There's like children love McDonald's, then they become too cool for McDonald's at a
hmm
certain time where they think it's all about they want more meat, and then
yeah,
they come back to it when they have their own children. So between like sort of
yeah, that's the
16 and
timeline.
16 and 25,
Yeah,
oh, Burger King, and then
yeah.
they come back.
Yeah, that is so true. It really is. That is pretty much how life has,
Yeah,
has worked out for me. But I think the thing with with Burger Kings, I just think they're it's expensive for what you get. And what I
mm,
like about McDonald's is it's inexpensive, even though the price of everything has gone up.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not, from their business, not yours because you don't work there anymore, but from their business model, the whole point of what your job when you were there is to minimize variability, to maximize margin, because
yeah,
your margins are low, because you've got, not only have you got like to get the raw materials in, which is meat and whatever bread, but you've got humans, and then you've got a massive like I don't know what you call it, buildings. You've
yeah,
got all these buildings that you've got to like look after. So there's a whole infrastructure,
yeah. Mm,
and you're getting a McDonald's, you're getting a burger for 99p. Like
yeah,
how did they, other than
yeah.
through pure repetition? There's no
Yeah,
way you could
yeah,
do that
no,
for.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Right down to how much mustard, how much ketchup.
Yeah,
The tools that they've developed over the years to just the perfect shot. It's
yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah.
yes, could talk all day about
Right.
McDonald's.
Yes, I think obviously we had a call the other week, was it? And I said, oh, we should do this because we're quite happy to have a chat about anything, right? So yeah, it's been great.
Very
I've
definitely,
enjoyed it. I hope you have
yeah.
enjoyed this.
Oh no, definitely. I love this sort of a conversation that rambles all over the place,
Yeah,
but hopefully the listeners have got value from it as well.
yeah. Well, as I said to you before we came on, I think I've so many different peers in businesses at various levels. Some, who have, actually most of them are small business operators, because you obviously gravitate to the people that you most like, and I think a lot of people struggle with that whole thing of process, and
Yeah,
we're using that word, which I know you don't like, but
yeah,
they struggle
yes,
with translating the
yeah,
the passion they have into this,
yeah,
the way of doing
yeah,
things, and I
yeah,
think hopefully this is going to help them at least sort of like
yeah,
be able to
yeah.
move forward in terms of their
Yeah.
business. So
And really just one final, it is about making it we and us, not me and them, and getting other people to be passionate about the same things. Maybe not to the same degree because it's your business, but getting them to feel that same level of pride and ownership. I mean, I was immensely proud of working for McDonald's. It was the number one in the fast food industry. It's like,
mm,
okay, but I was really proud, and still, I am, I still look at McDonald's and obviously I have built my whole business around systemizing like McDonald's in order to scale. But it is making it we and us in your business. It's it's not easy, but it's really simple, and it makes
mm,
such a big difference.
yeah, brilliant. Right, okay, Marion. So, who are your customers in terms of like, if you could get anything out of this podcast, who is it you would, one, like, and then two, what would you like, and where will they find you to get hold of you?
Okay, three questions. Right. First question, who would I like to work with? Well, I'm big into my speaking now, and any business that hires professional speakers to come and speak for them, any trade association, whether it's a small corporate, big medium enterprise, who actually pays for speakers to come and speak, I'd be absolutely delighted to have a conversation about that. But also actually small business mentoring clients. I love getting out there and talking to as many people as possible to share this message. But actually, I really still like that one-to-one. So I'm doing a lot more one-to-one mentoring now. So anybody that feels that they would benefit from some working with someone who talks a lot about structure and people and developing systems that people actually follow, making them stick, then get in touch. Best way to get in touch, you can either find me at mariannepage.com, definitely on LinkedIn, always all over LinkedIn. YouTube is another place where actually you can find quite a lot of free resources, because I do a fair amount of videoing, and obviously my website, very simple, mariannepage.com. So yeah, get in touch. I'd love to talk to you, or you can just read one of my books for a start off.
Yes. Yeah, I asked Marianne to get her book, so I was going to do that. So that's good. Yeah, so I think I've got 3 of those. I don't think I've got the last one actually.
Yeah, no, you won't have the last one.
Brilliant. Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been brilliant to catch up and talk systems and operations.
Oh, sure.
Even though you don't want to talk about it. Yeah.
Love it. As always, great to talk to you, Rick, and thanks everyone for listening.